This is The Unhappy Millionaire, where entrepreneurs and other top performers discover how to go beyond the bank balance to create thriving, joyful lives. For more, visit theunhappymillionaire.com. And now, on to the show. Tal, have you ever seen the show Parks and Rec?
Yeah, hilarious.
So there's this one arc where Bobby Newport, who's played by the actor Paul Rudd, is running against our heroine Leslie Knope for city council. And the running gag is that he's just a rich kid who's constantly referring to his father. He has a campaign video where it's, "I'm Bobby Newport. My dad is friends with John Cougar Mellencamp, and that's pretty cool." And just lots of gags like that. But what we come to find out is that he doesn't even really want to be in city council. He just wants to impress his dad. And I think part of what's funny about that, if not a little sad, is that it resonates because we've all met people, and I met even successful people who they're really out to impress their parents. And their parents might even be dead, but like their driving motive is, I want to show them that I'm somebody. And this is the wider category of what Ayn Rand calls second-handedness, this idea of being primarily driven by and concerned with other people. It's defining success by, first and foremost, how I'm relating to other people. And I think it's a real tragedy. I think it sabotages your happiness. And I thought we could explore that today, what second-handedness is, why it's destructive, and hopefully a few words on how to avoid it.
I think it runs much deeper than your mom and dad. It runs deep because of the way we teach kids how to live. It starts with a mom and dad, but the culture in general is expecting you to want specific things, to value specific things. I remember we just played a video of someone who read Atlas Shrugged for the first time, and she said, before that, I learned that there's a problem of climate change, and I wanted to do something completely different. But in an age of climate change, I decided to be an environmental engineer because I cannot afford to be anything else. And that's how the culture communicates to you that there are specific things that you need to want. And there are things that are considered much better than other things, specifically making money. What will make me money? Unfortunately, I think most of the kids today who go to college don't ask themselves, who am I? What did I always want to be? What's interesting to me? They don't take the, 3, 4, 5 years to go explore what's out there in the world that I can value, that I can find meaning in. They just go out and say, what will make me money? If it's finance or it's business or it's engineering or it's being a medical doctor, that will give me the comfort and the prestige that I will get from the culture and, of course, my mom and dad. So I think it starts with a whole perspective on education that we have. If it was my world, I got to design it. The whole educational approach should be, who is that kid? Because there's only one kid that looks like that. And what are they interested in? What do they find meaning in? And it'll be just a whole exploration of who that kid is and what the world has to offer that kid and where the intersection of that kid and the world, where that kid finds meaning, and then go all in on the places where he finds meaning in. And I think that's a completely unknown path that we'll have to discover.
So, you noted motivation primarily by money can be second-handed. And I think that's right. I think we've talked about the virtue of pursuing money. But I think if you see the issue as to be a second-hander is instead of putting reality first, you're concerned primarily with what other people think is true instead of what is true. You're concerned with what others want rather than what you want. You're trying to live by their effort rather than your own. And so I want money not as a means to fuel my first-handed goals, not in order to enhance and enrich me doing what matters most to me, but you use the word prestige. Yeah, it's when I'm trying to impress people. I want the symbols of success. I want to wear the clothes that are expected of me. It's when money is fueling a kind of image that you're holding out to the world rather than the goals that matter most to you. Is that how you think about it?
Exactly. I had a talk with my 17-year-old daughter the other day, and we talked about money. I asked her, what do you need? And we got to the conclusion that she doesn't need much because she was thinking, what about money? What about money? What about money? And again, it's a result of an upside down view of what happiness is. And talking about why second-handedness doesn't work and doesn't give you happiness, it's because happiness comes from you pursuing valuable goals that you find meaning in, and then seeing yourself, not others, yourself achieving this. And then the self-reputation that evolves with that is, I know who I am. I know what I want. I can achieve this. And happiness is a result of this process going on over and over again, so you can develop more and more self-esteem because you always go for bigger and bigger values. But the confusion is that in any way that you deviate from, it has to be something you find meaning in. It has to be you chooses that goal, and it has to be you that achieves it. And you are the author, you are the driver of all of it. If you deviate from that, then you're eroding the self-reputation, and actually you're corrupting it, because think about what it means to achieve other people's values. Think about what it means to achieve your values by other helping you, not helping you, but doing the work for you, right? In all those cases, the gold coins of happiness just do not come. And people ask themselves why, right?
I think about it as what second-handedness is at the deepest level is that you're surrendering your mind, and therefore you're surrendering control over your life. And you mentioned driving. It's like I'm going to turn over the wheel to somebody, and I have no clue whether they're well-trained like Tal is or whether they're a complete drunk driver. And even that's not a perfect analogy, and you were hitting on this too, because like the joy of life is not getting to some destination. It's the driving to where you want to go. And so it's much more like trying to delegate working out or trying to delegate making love. It's like, that's not, you're missing the point. You're not getting the benefits. And it's not that you shouldn't have others do the living for you and the thinking for you and the valuing for you. It's that in the end, you can't. And so a second-hander is missing out on living at a really deep level.
Just to talk about love, making love. Well, first, I love the driving analogy because I think it's exactly what it is. If you're a passenger, at the end of the trip, who got you there? Who did the work? Who navigated? Who drove? And it runs so deep because what you bring to a relationship, what you bring to love and sex is a celebration of who you are. And that is a culmination of everything that you know you are. And it starts with one of the hardest problems, by the way, which is not the driving. Getting into the car and driving, yes, you should be in the driver's seat. You should drive. But where are you driving to? And I think that's the hard part. The hard part is, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And again, we got it upside down as a culture. We never celebrate one's ability to just say, I'm just taking time to discover who I am. And we can talk a lot about what are the needed elements in order to be first-handed, because we want people to be first-handed, but that's the challenge. How do I become first-handed? I always say that if you read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, the first scene is this hero standing on a rock, naked, saying, I know who I am, I know what I love, and I don't care what people think. But the question, how did he get there? What did he have to do in order to develop the self-image, the self-understanding, the knowledge of saying, architecture, that's what I want to do. And I always ask the people that I work with, what is your architecture? Have you discovered it? And I think that's the prerequisite, the ability to see things that bring value to your life. And that's where first-handedness start, because that's what it means to be yourself. To be yourself is to pursue the things that you love. Let me ask you, Don, how many genres of music do you think there is on Spotify?
10,
Go up.
50,
Way up.
200.
6,000.
I was off.
6,000 genres. How many artists are on Spotify?
10.
Now, come on.
There's got to be hundreds of thousands, I would imagine.
11 million. 11 million artists. So think about music. Just music. It's a very unique form of art that says a lot about who you are and what you value, right? Just think about the variety of music, of genres, of musicians that you can listen to Think about the food, the TV shows, the hobbies, the clothes, everything in every aspect. You need to care a lot about what moves you. What do you find beautiful? What do you find elegant? What do you love listening to, watching? What kind of stories move you? And the reason why we have such a variety of options in the market is that in a way manifests one's own identity. I'm the guy who loves, I don't know, I love Lululemon clothes. They're really comfortable. And I'm the guy who loves dramas. And I'm the guy who loves the drums and so on and so forth. That is for me the essence of first-handedness. And you're right. I mean, the culture bombards us with messages that say what you want, what you care about, forget about it. How would you even know? So go by edicts and what your mother and father expects you, because they, by the way, never develop their own soul. So safety and comfort and money and all of the prestige and all of the other external aspects become the dominant in one's decision-making.
And it is easy to fall into. You and I just spent a week at the Ayn Rand Institute's annual summer conference, OCON, and I was talking to some people there, and they were noting that Ayn Rand fans, there used to be a kind of taboo on people who said, like, yeah, Ayn Rand really responded to skyscrapers. For her, that was an expression of man's mind at its highest potential. And somebody was mentioning, like, there was a period where people were afraid to say, yeah, I don't really care about skyscrapers. And it's that idea of, I have to have the same tastes and the same specific concretes as everybody else in my subculture. But you also mentioned something I think is really important, this question of, like, where am I driving to? In The Fountainhead, and this doesn't have any spoilers, but the center of the page example of the second-hander is a guy named Peter Keating, and he's an architect. And Keating thinks a lot about, how do I rise to the top of architecture? He thinks about, how am I going to get the next job? How am I going to sell my services? But what he doesn't do is think about his goal. He doesn't think about, where am I driving to? That is all from other people. Why am I in architecture? That's prestigious. Why should I try to get to the top? That's prestigious. It's all goals. It's all destinations chosen by others. And so it's thinking about your goals, about your ends, not just your means, that is really at the heart of being first-handed. But I think it's important to get the kind of wide range because of second-handedness. Because it's really easy to go, oh, well, I'm not a conformist who just does what other people tell me to do. But there's a lot of other ways that this comes up. I'll give you one example where I fell into the second-handedness trap, and I'm sure there's plenty more, but this one occurs to me. I remember my mid-20s, and I think I was had just finished my first book or I was working on it, and I remember that Obama, who was president then, had this speechwriter who was like my age, maybe a year younger, and I was like, oh my God, what a failure I am. I'm not writing for the president, far from it. And that is such a stupid kind of view. I was doing the thing that I was most thrilled by in the world. I was getting paid to write about philosophy, and I was on the trajectory of achieving my childhood dream of having a book that I was proud of. By every measure, like, I was wildly successful for that point in my career by my own standards. And yet I had this pang of failure because I had this dumb comparative standard that, like, why am I comparing myself to this guy? What if I was running for the president? I would have been miserable because I would have been preaching ideas that I disagreed with.
And I fell many, many times to that trap. But I want to say something the hero's journey, right? That I think we all need to want to be heroes. Heroes by the sense of, like, I want the right to write the story of my life and to make it as interesting as mine as possible. Not a lot is being said about the fact that a hero, first and foremost, that you identify with, knows what they want. Right? Think about it. Every hero, before they start their journey, and sometimes their journey includes the discovery of what they want, what they're after. But the most important aspect of being a hero is knowing exactly where you're going, right? What is that thing that drives, that feeds, that motivates the whole story? Of, like, he wants to be an architect, and all of the obstacles in the way is what we want him to achieve, right? Proto wants to put the ring back. in Mordor, right? And if I got it right. But we want to see the hero knowing exactly what it is that they're after. And that's where the hero's journey starts, right? The whole process by which they get there. And I'm not saying that as just how to write stories. This is how you need to write the story of your life. Stop where you are and ask yourself, am I writing a story of a hero? Which means I have figured out what is my architecture. What is that one thing that I think would express me as I am in the most expressive way? And am I doing everything that I need to do, including passing through strain and effort and obstacles and overcoming all of it in the process of trying to achieve that? This is how you gain self-respect. And honestly, you shouldn't care about what other people think about you. But if you think about who people respect, I just saw a documentary about Roger Federer. It just came out in Prime Video. I was waiting for that.
Do you recommend it? I saw that.
It's okay. It did not extract the value that Federer carries. It was just about the last 2 days of him departing from the sport. But why are we interested in Roger Federer? Because he knows exactly what he wants to do. And he wants to be the best. By the way, there's another documentary about Andy Murray, who is not a Roger Federer. I found that even more inspirational because it talks about his hip replacement and so on and how he is still playing. He's failing over and over again. He just goes out in first rounds of tournaments. But the standing ovation he gets every time he loses in the first round is unbelievable. People just connect to this Andy Murray who says, that's what I want to do. And yes, I'm playing with a platinum hip because I don't care. And there was another documentary I saw about a motorcycle driver who has like metal all over his body. And every time he got injured, he went to the hospital and ran back to race the next day. This is the kind of self-reputation that you want to develop. And this is what happiness means, walking around saying, I'm the person that knows exactly what they want because I've done the work, selected my own values. No one else got to select it for me. It's first-handed, and I'm serious about it. I'm really serious about it.
Well, speaking of tennis, that's actually a really good example. Have you read Andre Agassi's memoir?
No, they told me it's really good.
It's incredible. I'm not even a tennis fan, but I read it because I'm interested in superlative achievers. But the whole thrust of the memoir is he did not enjoy tennis, that it was something his father had pushed him to excel at. He was good at it, but he was the best player of his generation and miserable. And it really drives home that if it's not your goal, it doesn't matter if you achieve it. It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars and millions of adoring fans and everybody in the world knows your name. Like, he was not happy because it was not what he first-handedly wanted to do. And like, that is a real tragedy. Because somebody was asking me, like, hey, don't you think that like the world would have missed out on a great tennis player? It's like, tough for the world. Agassi's life belongs to him, and it would have been better for him if he would have found something he was passionate about.
Completely. I can't agree more. And it starts with education, but you can educate yourself every age. I work with people who are 60, 65, and it's amazing to see that once they get the point, they stop, they rethink, they reorient, and they start building their happiness. It's never too late to evaluate all of the values in your life and split them into two categories. The things I chose and the things someone somehow got to choose for me. Even if I saw it somewhere and I decided that's what I want, and I took it from the outside in and never validated that it's an inside-out thing. And let's differentiate between a kind of a second-handedness of taking things from the outside versus the things that are completely in the process of figuring out who you are, like learning from others. Watching heroes and mentors, role models do what they do. And that is beautiful because it's almost like, what is possible to me? And what is the best that I can achieve? Give me an image of what I can aspire to. So learning from others, working with mentors, and actually when you're working with other people that you respect, you want the response, you want the feedback. So if you're working for a manager that you really respect and you learn a lot, when they say something about you, you want to take it in. And if it's you did an amazing job and here's why, that's part of the confirmation of like, I am good at what I do. And that is completely fine. I think that it's not seeking approval, it's seeking feedback. It's part of the feedback loop that the world gives you if you're successful or not, including feedback from people you respect. So all those things, learning from others, seeing great work in other people, getting inspired by other people is not second-handedness. It's just a path to be a better first-hander.
The way I think about it is like second-handedness is throwing away your mind. It's subordinating your judgment to the judgment of others, the judgment about what's true and the judgment about what's valuable. And like learning from others, you have to do the learning, right? You have to think like, is this true? Are they right? The recognition from people you respect, you have to determine, do I value this person's opinion? Do I have reasons why it means something to me? And that's just very different from the kind of, I'm going to conform to what other people say because they say it. It's very different from, I'm superior to others. It's very different from, I'm good because I serve others. Here's one interesting way of being a second-hander I want to throw out there because it's counterintuitive, but I think really drives this point home about how different it is from the independent thought we're talking about. How about this? The person who characteristically is interested in rebelling against others. Everybody does X, so I'm going to do non-X. The rebel is second-handed in the same way. If you're independent-minded, then if everybody agrees with you or if everybody disagrees, it's irrelevant. It's your judgment about what's true. But the rebel says, yeah, I'm not judging what's true. I'm just going to go in the different direction of everybody else. But he's still oriented towards what others think and do rather than his first-handed grasp of reality. So it's really about your own judgment, your own work. And within there, yeah, learning, collaborating. I mean, we work at the Ayn Rand Institute. It's a team of individualists who work together really closely. And that is, you could be a hermit who's a complete second-hander because all of your goals, all of your actions are oriented towards others in some way.
Yeah. And as a manager, I can tell you that I always found it suspicious that everybody's like, teamwork, everything's about teamwork. And I always thought, I don't know what that exactly means. The way I manage people, I manage individuals. I manage each and every one of my employees is a different person with different skill sets, with different interests, with different strengths and weaknesses. And my job as a manager is to just give them the environment to thrive. And of course, because of the division of labor, you need them to work together. But just by identifying who they are as individuals, I want to give homework to everyone listening. The homework I want you to do is to list all of the things. And I know sometimes it could be a long list. Sometimes unfortunately for some people, it's a short list of all the things that you love about life. Everything. List it down. Everything that is worth living for. The places you love being in, the people you love to be around, the activities you love doing, the possessions you have, the skills you hone, and all of the things that make life great. And I want you to then to think about each and every one of those values and think about, when did I choose this one? When did I develop the passion towards this? When did I decide that this is important? And you'll find suspicious values in your list. Things that I never chose this. I never decided this is important. I just inherited this. This is what I think other people find valuable, so I value it, right? And I did a lot of work removing what I call spider values. They crawl into your value system out of my system and focus on the things that I proved to myself over and over again, that those are the things that I chose. They're a reflection of who I am. By the way, the question, who am I, is a question we should ask ourselves all the time. Who am I? Because the only answer to that question is the set of values that are your values, that define what type of person you are. By the music that you love. One of those 6,000 genres of music is who you are. I'm the fusion guy. What can I say? I love fusion music. And some people think it's like elevator music. And it's fine, but that's who I am. And I know exactly why fusion music. And that work is what it means to be first-handed.
Well, that's good. I'll give my own homework assignment, which kind of builds on yours, which is think about the things that you choose that are first-handed values for you, particularly the ones that you don't always honor. And just think about what would happen if I only did what I wanted to do, if I only pursued the values that I embrace. And really think about the positives and the negatives of it. Give yourself permission to, like, what if my life was only driven by my judgment about what's true and what's good?
That's great homework. By the way, you just made me think about two things, realizing that one thing is something I want to do for work and the other thing is something I want to do as a hobby. Okay, for instance, public speaking. I want to do that. I want to do that and I want to get better at it. And I want to do that as my main thing. On the other hand, driving, race car driving, when you said that, is like, what if I did only that? It's like, no, I don't want to do only that. That's a hobby. So that's really clarifying.
I'm Don Watkins, he's Tal Don, and this has been The Unhappy Millionaire. Ready to take the next step in your journey? Visit theunhappymillionaire.com, where you can find powerful resources for building a life that you love and details on how you can work with Tal and me.